Two questions. First question, like for example, the change of character clip was from a recording from my laptop, and can you guys tell me whether that is better, worse, or identical to like when I have like my full setup? You guys can turn on your mics just to make it quicker.
Well, that's not.
Can you hear me? All right. Did you guys hear what I said?
Yeah, we heard you. It's just I haven't watched it yet.
You haven't watched it yet? Cool. Has anybody watched it? Who do we have on call? If anybody, oh no, it's not. It's only gonna be if you've seen the video. If you've seen the video after I posted it, and we just posted it, so in case anybody, if nobody has seen it, that's fine. All right, but in case if you guys watch it tonight, please like let me know, because that is from a clip from my laptop, and I want to compare the quality of my laptop to the quality of the videos that are made like here in my setup. Then question 2 is, did you guys watch this, or were you guys on the Zoom on Saturday, or have you seen the Zoom from Saturday, May 1st? All right, because that's pretty much where we went more in depth in terms of breaking this down per se. So yeah, pretty much if you didn't watch Saturday's Zoom, right, we pretty much acknowledged that we are, you know, coming into an inefficiency that just reacted on the 2-day, pretty perfect. And now when we're looking at H4, right, keep in mind we were here right on Saturday, and remember that we said that as long as this wasn't too fast, right, that naturally we would come to react, you know, from this general area, right? We drew this, and the target, initial target, has been met, right? Has been met, right? But now the reaction is a bit weird, right? So this played out pretty much perfectly, where we had, this is the H4 wick. Make sure I'm recording. Okay, cool. H4 wick there, and then once we go into H1, right, that wick there reacted perfectly, and it doesn't get more perfect than this, right? This is what I know a lot of you guys caught this move, right? Coming into reaction or coming into POI, right? Low, high, low, high, low, high, low, structural range, new structural range, right here, right, is the pullback. And then because we broke microstructure, right, this is still seen as bearish order flow, so this is still, you know, pretty hard to try to guess a bottom. So keep in mind that structure, right, was unwilling to break here, right? And now because we saw this push to the upside, right, we see the internal disruption, and we come back to M2 inefficiency, where my point of invalidation would have more than likely been here, right? Why? Because this is the low that generated right, this is the low that generated the internal disruption, right? So although, let me delete this stuff here. Right, so although we do have bearish order flow still in play, right, it's not a disruption until we break the POI present. Why? Because this could have been a reaction from the open, and this could have been from the, sorry about that, and this would be a 50% reaction. But because we have 1, a POI in place, 2, unwillingness, 3, initial break of structure, right? 4, momentum, right? 5, time of day, right? Confluence fits, M2 inefficiency, point of invalidation, right? Here or here, either one is fine. So yeah, as you can see, even though we have relative equal lows, right, we did not come there because because order flow is no longer bearish based on the unwillingness, momentum, the break, right, internal disruption, right, and then the M2 inefficiency fill, right? So does that make sense? Very straightforward. Right, and then this, right, was essentially the move, right, that pretty much brought us back to take out liquidity, right? And in my opinion, we're still bullish, right? Not unless this box here is broken, right? Because if we're looking at today was super sloppy, right? Right around, oh, I'll cover that in the EU part, but either way, right, as you can see, we had a large reaction, right? And I highlighted the final SC here, right? That has not been tapped yet, but once we start to come into smaller time frame, right, I see one final clear leg to the downside that took liquidity. So this is an internal structural range based on a mitigation signifying bearish order flow. So then immediately after, we took out the preliminary level of structure, right? But we had unwillingness because we had a push up, a push down, right? And then after this was solidified as a low, we had unwillingness here, right? Which then broke structure to the downside. So we were technically bearish now, right? And so because this, right, then broke the high, immediate high there, then this is now no man's land. And it's not something you want to trade or look into, right? So naturally you want to wait for any type of reaction to go from, right? Which is why I'd rather see, you know, liquidity be cleared, come into a POI, maybe during London, right? Give us a strong reaction, New York catch a reaction, and then go forward, right? For the most part, I am still bullish on this in kind of short to medium term per se, just so that, right, there is still potential, right? Not only that we can take out this massive amount of liquidity up here, we could also try to come reach back into the turbulence point, right? Pretty much just what we covered on Saturday. And as you can see, it's playing out nicely from here. Now we just want to see if this is willing to hold. If not, this could be taken out as liquidity, right? And we could even come back down here, right? But I am still bullish, right? Even though this could be seen as a liquidity grab, right? As soon as this is broken, so this would need a proper reaction. All right, so coming into EU. Right, so this was this morning's, no, this is the move we were talking about. So, right, pretty much covering, right, yesterday and today, right? Remember that we acknowledged the fact that we had broken structure, right? Given one full structural range to the downside, right? So this naturally came back up into a potential turbulence point on smaller time frame, right? And as you can see, right, there's inefficiency here and there is a wick here, right? So you can highlight both. Okay, and as we were essentially late into our session here, right, there was a play here, right? And me and Curtis were actually looking at this live, seeing it play out. And actually what we ended up looking at was, yep, we were seeing, you see a final push up, then you see a wick that mitigates that, which then generates the move to the downside. And that is essentially the true point of interest there, right? If you go into M1, you'll see a lot more, right? But if we're looking at this POI, right, it's the reaction that matters. right? So right, as we can see, looking into our pretty much our structure here, right? Low, high, right? Bullish structure still intact. Doesn't make sense to want to sell yet without a reason. Okay, so then we come down here, liquidity grab, generates a new high, bullish structural range is intact. All right, now the first sign of weakness is a potential micro breaker structure here, not a disruption because we didn't mitigate and then take it out. But the thing is that even though we had the micro breaker structure, which is seen as as a continuation BOS, we came back into the wick that took liquidity, right? So this generated bullish order flow to the upside, right? Solidifying this as a low because we took out microstructure. But now is where it gets tricky, right? As we start to zoom in here, right, we now see, right, initial mitigation of the candle, right, potentially another mitigation on smaller time frame inside of this candle, and then we see another mitigation, right? So this is now a lot of effort, right, to drive price to take out liquidity and create a new high, right? So as soon, right, as we take liquidity, we then break preliminary level of structure, right, solidifying this as a high in terms of microstructure, right? And even though we haven't taken out the entire low, this is weak order flow. Why? Because we have 1 mitigation, 2 mitigation, 3 mitigation that is not able to take out the recent high, right? So this momentum is extremely strong, and it actually came back into the M2 inefficiency. Right, so it's very, very very ideal. If you wanted to take that off of that, you could easily have a 3.3 pip stop there, right? But it's only because of the weak order flow, right, that then led to a liquidity grab that gave me the incentive that this wanted to come lower, right? Very, very nice, right? Yeah, I know a lot of people caught this one, right? Very, very nice, right? That's the M2 inefficiency. Easily, right, have a 3.3 pip stop there, and this went to the fucking ground, right? So you guys see, very, very textbook. This is too small. Right there. Right, this then went for 60-ish pips, right? If you're wanting to aim for a previous low, right? And the reason why I'm not chasing a potential hedge here is because, keep in mind, we are trading inside of a very high premium. We now had a very significant major intraday structural range take out the previous structural range, right? So our structure is bearish on a medium term scale, right? And then 2, right, we do have a turbulence point. We are reacting from a strong POI, right? And then we have our our lower time frame give us the proper reaction that we want. So it makes a lot of sense as to why this is going to reach for liquidity, right? So that is 60 pips, right? Easily 20 to 1. Easily could have even made your stop smaller, if I'm being honest. But of course, I'm trying to just be conservative for you guys. It could have probably been a pip smaller. Alright, I don't know what is going on here. Alright, but anyways, you guys get the point, right? That's pretty much been the only thing I've been looking at. Everything else was super sloppy, especially this morning, right? Because this morning, right, I was anticipating a continuation, right? It made a lot of sense. During London, we had a strong push to the downside, and then we had a correction to the upside. So, right, during session today, right, I saw this react from inefficiency in play here. Right, inefficiency is in play there. Right, and relatively the same as yesterday, but pretty much my setup was, let's see, right here. All right, and let me see if I can find something real quick. I'm looking for a quick chart, guys. 1 second. All right, I sent this in the admin group. Yeah. Right, so this is actually, I sent this in the admin group. Right, as you can see, this is another POI. I need to remember what POI this was. But anyways, right, I saw a push down, heavy momentum, right? And even though this made a continuation to the downside, right, I more so see this as a structure break. And now my overall range is from here to here because we've taken out our final structural range, right? So luckily we actually did come back for liquidity, came back up and came back down. All right, that played out very, very nicely. Solid play. Right, so here, put it there. Right, 2.5 pip, and this went for 4 to 1, right? And now I closed this, right, as soon as I started seeing this, right? So we see the continuation, right? We see the reaction of the POI, and I thought this would continue lower, right? But, right, because this then came back up, right, immediately after we reacted from the POI, this is now an internal disruption, right? Not only that, we even took out the microstructure there too. So now once we came back into the pullback, this should be me buying, right? This should be me buying, right? But I didn't buy. But that should be me buying, aiming for liquidity, right? But I didn't. I just closed my trade, and then that is it. Pretty much, 6 pips for the day. That's fine. All right, just about a 2R. Yeah, 2R, that's fine. Right, live for another day. And then as you can see, that's when this came back all the way up here. And then it came back down, then it grabbed liquidity here. So as soon as I saw something like that, it's just like, we're now stuck in this range. You know what, right? We're stuck in pretty much inside of this range. So I'm no longer interested, right? And as you can see, after my trading hour, that happened. So nothing I'm really too bothered about. Who knows, we could probably see a mitigation of this if this wants to load. Come on. All right, I don't know what's going on. Right, so as soon as I'm seeing this, right, it still makes sense to want to play this, and this is what a lot of you guys played out, right, and that is 100% okay, right? But as you can see, it gave you quick 30 pips, quick 30 pips, and then now it's still struggling in the range. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do reach inefficiency again. Would not be surprised at all. Keep in mind, we are still fully bearish, especially because bearish order flow based on this range here is still intact, right? Efficient, inefficient, reaction back to the inefficient, make it efficient. So that happened, right? And because there is a massive move to the downside, that is still considered inefficiency. So naturally, maybe something like this could happen during London. And if that happens during London, right, then it would make a lot of sense to try to catch a continuation lower. Right, so for the most part there, I can't go against this bias unless we break this, right? Because if we break this, then this is now seen as unwillingness, right? So if this breaks, unwillingness, and now is when you want to be bullish, right? So I cannot do that, right? I cannot assume that, right, currently, right? Especially because we have made a new low. All right, so I'm very sloppy today. I'm very interested for tomorrow, right? Because we could either take this liquidity, right? Who knows, right? This is considered a POI, but I'm not playing with it because it is technically counter trend. Just due to the fact that we already broke internal structure here, right? So, right, like I said, I need to wait for whatever happens during London and then capitalize in New York, right? So, other than that, right, I think Carlos was talking about this, and he actually showed a pretty decent setup that he missed today. Let's see, where was it? Oh yeah, he was here. So he actually had a question for me, and I think I should answer it for all of you since it was him too. So, right, he asked me that if we had a top of the POI, right, and then if, right, actually on FXCM, this actually took the liquidity here. He said that if that liquidity on FXCM had been taken and then made a continuation lower, is that seen as disruption? No, because you want disruption to take the whole POI out. Why? Because you got to think of the theory behind disruption, right? A disruption of order flow means you're disrupting the overall bullish or bearish flow, right? So if a POI is intact and you're reacting once and then maybe you come back for liquidity, react again, maybe from the 50%. We've seen that happen plenty of times over the past couple months. Because that has happened, right, and we didn't take out the POI, that signifies that bearish order flow is still in play, right? It's until you break that, it's until you break the POI that then you can assume disruption. Okay, so he's pretty much talking to me about that. And yeah, pretty much his question was that he didn't want to take a trade because of that, right? So let's see. So let's say there is a potential POI on M1 here. Right, let's say there is a potential POI here, but more than likely we'd go with obviously the low of the candle, right, from the open to the low. Right, now let's say this did grab liquidity or whatever and then came here, right? So this potential POI has a point of invalidation of here. This is the point of invalidation, right? So we came to the POI, we reacted, we failed to break microstructure. In fact, we even mitigated the wick. Right? So this mitigation now generated the internal break of structure, which solidified this high as unwillingness based on high and low because we broke the preliminary levels of structure. Okay, so this solidified the high, meaning structure is to the downside, right? And his entry would have been here, right? After the mitigation of that. So this is actually a very, very good case study. I'm not going to tell you what to do with it, but just an FYI, if you're looking for models, study this right here and you'll see something you'll really like. Right, so as you can see, right, after this potential liquidity grab, whatever it is, right, you had 1, 2, 3 mitigations, right? Not too many, right? But it could be considered too many if we didn't have this momentum in play. If we didn't have this momentum in play, this would have been too many mitigations. Okay, so that signifies strong order flow because we have mitigation, mitigation, impulse, mitigation, bearish order flow, and that is the move there. All right. And keep in mind, he is deriving this idea from the fact that we finally left the range, right? Remember what we said? If we're playing with this range, you want to let it show its hand, right? So we let it show its hand, got into a discount, right? Lower time frame entry, and then that would have been down here, right? So very, very solid trade from Carlos here. He just was confused on whether or not that is a disruption. So no, that is not a disruption. Just because we didn't break the POI. Let's see. It would have been a 2-pip. Right, easy 1 to 17. Right. So I do have one final question. Every other pair was messy. I was looking this morning, and I even tried looking again now. Like, see, look at this. Right, very, very sloppy. This one was nice, right, because we actually had internal disruption, but we didn't reach a mitigation until later in the day. Right, so I'm actually probably going to start trading a bit further now, just because I'm seeing these late New York moves. But as you can see, right, there's a pretty much a inverted hammer there, or doji, whatever you want to call it, right? Bearish closure, then there's a wick up. That wick up is our point of interest. Right, see, this is an example of clear disruption. Right, so you see reaction, right? Reaction, reaction, right? Immediate break of structure, solidifying this high. So this is now unwillingness based on low, high retracement, or low, high retracement, right? Whichever way you want to see it. So this unwillingness generates internal disruption of order flow and a minor BOS here, right? Meaning that my point of validation is here, because this is the last time we broke bearish structure before generating a new high. Okay, solidified structure point, low, high. This even came up and took out liquidity here, right? But that's fine. All I really care for is the internal disruption and the minor BOS, right? And as you can see, this came back, right? If we're looking at either inefficiency, or if we're looking at the potential SC inside of this candle, you can see that there, right? And even if you don't catch that, you can catch it there, right? And then that would have been, right, a solid trade to come up to a previous high, right? So I have one question. That pretty much concludes today's small lecture. Let me close this. I do have one question, right? You guys know, right? So over the past months, right, I've really tried to stay away from giving you guys or showing you guys perfect entries, and I've really tried to transition over to a more so quote unquote realist entry, right? Do you guys know why that is? This is something I was thinking about the other day too. Do you guys know why that is? I'm kind of staying away from 0.5 pip stops, 0.3 pip stops, 0.2 pip stops. I'm really trying to stay away from that. Do you guys know why? Perfection is evil. Yes, I like that. I like that. Right? Anybody else? Consistency, profitability. Yes. I'm not saying that you can't be consistent and profitable with that, right? Because obviously I've done it before. But there's more to it. Realistically, realistically, that's the answer I had. You need to find your own way. Yes. Right. So yes, so me being more conservative allows you to have more breathing room to take this wherever you want. You know what I'm saying? And it does avoid stupid losses, yes. Right, and that's why we've introduced point invalidation and, you know, all of that stuff. Right, but more so, let me ask a question too. So everybody in here has a car, right? For the most part, right? Or drives a car on a regular basis. Doesn't matter if it's yours, right? Right, is that a yes or no?
Yeah, we're listening.
So, right, so my car has a max of 160 miles per hour. Obviously, some of you guys have kilometers per hour. So mine is miles per hour. So my car can go 160 miles per hour. So does that mean, right, that I should always go 140, 150, 120 miles per hour to get faster to my destination?
No.
Why?
Because
looking for one word.
You're like
pushing your car to the limit all the time, and that's like wearing your car out quicker.
So that's something that goes into it, right? But what does it all revolve around?
Yeah.
What is it?
risk.
Okay, safety also revolves around it, but what does it revolve around? Think of the entire model that think trading now.
Okay.
Think trading.
More risk.
What does it revolve around? And we're looking for one word, and if somebody can get it, I'll be impressed. I'll give y'all like 30 seconds. Neither safe nor practical. Yes, but there's something, a principle above that, right? What are you running? What are you?
Risk.
I almost said the word.
Risk.
Exactly, risk. Right.
Yeah.
So your risk of running your car at 140, 130 miles per hour, right? You're risking a police ticket. You're risking your safety. You're risking your engine, right? You're risking your tires. Right? You're risking your exhaust. You're risking overheating, right? You're risking car aspects, ticket aspects, safety aspects, right? So because it's possible to get 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 pip stop losses, should you always take 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 stop losses? No, because of
risk.
Because of risk, right?
Yeah.
Your ability to take, I mean, not your ability, but you're running a risk of taking a stupid loss, right? Stupid exposure, right? You're running a risk of pissing yourself off, right? And then there's obviously so many other aspects I'm not even thinking of right now, right? So because you're able to get 0.2, 0.3 pip stop losses, 0.5 pip stop losses, that does not mean that you should, right? Why? It's irrational, right? So when you're thinking rationally, you're thinking realistically. So let me add a realistic SL so I am able to win the trade, because at the end of the day, winners are what's going to make you money, not high RR, right? High RR is a byproduct of your models, right? But what makes you money is winning a trade, right? Am I right or am I wrong?
Absolutely.
No, you completely right, bro. And it's crazy to think about, like, personally, like, you're talking about that and going full drive. Bro, when I first got that FTM, my first TMO account, I made like 10 grand in the first week. And then it was like, all right, fuck yeah, I can do this all the time. And then I was pushing it to the absolute max limit. And unfortunately with FTMO, like, as you increase the account, the risk parameters do not. So I'm still sitting there pushing the account. I went like $7 over the limit, but also had like, 6, 7 standards on with a 2 pit stop. It's like, why did you do that?
Exactly.
There's a perfect example. It's like you literally made $10,000 this week, and you're still pushing. Like, I mean, it comes down to greed, all kinds of things, but I totally see where you're coming from, and I really like that.
Right, you got to make rational decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, we're human, right? And we fuck up, right? If you tell me you don't fuck up, I'm gonna slap you, type of thing, you know? Everybody fucks up.
And I think it's hard, like, if you're newer and seeing that kind of money in your face, and you're just and it's a closed trade, like, yo,
Yeah, cheap mistakes.
my name is
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. It is a cheap mistake.
So
But
it's
yeah.
just about, like, the key word is pretty much rational. Like, are you justifying your positions, or are you just taking a position because you see a rule in place and you didn't do your full research? Right? So yeah, that's pretty much today's little lecture. 30-minute call, not bad. Unless you guys have a question or anything you guys want to cover.
No, you like Euro at that imbalance, so I see that too. And if you look on the daily, it's perfect. It's a block, and it's that last 4-hour prior accumulation with the structure break, so it shouldn't go back up to the second. That second imbalance is where I have my first limit set.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm actually buying that up right now. I got my entry at like 1.3.
I see that.
Break a structure, rebalance, open, rebalance, boom. It'd be nice too if we got that
low video. Yeah, actually, let me, since you're saying that now, let me add that to my to-do list. Now that you're bringing that up.
What are you talking about?
He said, am I gonna make a solidified high and low video?
Talking about the fib.
Right, hold on 1 second. Let me just add that real quick. Okay, so if you guys haven't done this, I actually keep my to-do list on my home screen. And that's from school to RCV to whatever it is I need to do with my life, you know. Make solidified find low video. And I'll send you guys the app that I use because a lot of these apps are BS. Come back to the G where you started reversing. I can't see it. Right. Right. It's actually something I see EG do a lot. Something I see EG do a lot. Right. This is why this is not considered disruption, just a break of a POI, because you don't want to break. I believe Lewis brought that question up. That if you break the POI, is that seen as disruption? No, because there is the possibility of a liquidity grab. Right, and that's why we don't want to call that an inefficient move. Right, so keep in mind. Yo. All right, well, I think he ended this. Did he end the Zoom? Hold on. All right, so I think we got disconnected, but I'm just going to pretty much discuss that. So remember there, what the fuck? Remember there are 3 things that can happen to a POI. 1, reacts from the open. 2, it can react from the 50%. Or 3, it can grab liquidity and then reverse. Right, so that pretty much, this exemplifies number 3. Right, and this is something I see EG do a lot. I do a lot, right? So in case you haven't had that tendency, that's a tendency right there. So yeah, I think something's up with my internet, so let me go fix that. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next call.